Okay, so what started as 30 hours of community service unfortunately escalated into 11 months for a contempt of court charge. So it looks like we'll be continuing this series again next year. Although I was permitted to have one last visit with our friend here who wanted to clarify a few things. Like what, for example?
For example, I'll give you an example. The Christmas tree was originally known as an Asherah pole.
Not quite true. The reference here is to a pole erected to the pagan goddess Asherah, who is reputedly a consort of Baal. Worship of Asherah disappeared well before Jesus was on earth. To suppose that Europeans of the post-medieval era reached that far back for an idea is like saying that the Mesoamerican deity Quetzalcoatl inspired the story of Jesus. So, what else?
The Christmas tree is a pagan altar. The pole, balls, and tinsel are all sexual symbols.
Yeah, this is as bad as it gets. Regrettably, documentation of claims like these is sparser than hen's teeth. I'm reminded of a skeptic named Lloyd M. Graham, who in a book titled Deceptions and Myths of the Bible, read all sorts of sexual symbolism into the garments of the high priest. I'll put these sexual parallels of the Christmas tree down to the same sort of, fertile imagination. There's also a claim that the rounded ornaments were identified by Christians with witch balls designed to capture evil spirits. How this coheres with them being testicles isn't clear, but it seems that this is merely a superficial similarity with no real connection, because witch balls appear to have been invented in England, not Germany. The origin of tinsel is, regrettably, not much better documented. It's generally attributed to the same period in Germany as the time the tree was first used. Other ornaments have a more certain history. They're the invention of a German glassblower named Hans Greiner in the 1840s. Needless to say, history doesn't lend itself well to the hypothesis of origins in the worship of an ancient Near Eastern deity. Okay, what's next?
Back in 1909, the name Mazda, a pagan deity from Persia, was used by General Electric as a brand name for Christmas lights.
While this is true, what point is being made is hard to say. We have a lot of products named after pagan deities, but no one assigns them any theological significance. If anything, pagan deities would have been insulted by such trivializing of their names, which were supposed to be held in reverence. Got another one?
You have to bow down to place gifts under the tree. That's like bowing at an altar and presenting gifts to a pagan god.
I can only suppose that those who make this argument are worshipping the gods of plumbing when they place a container of Drano under their kitchen sink. This argument is often used in tandem with the Deuteronomic admonition to not worship Yahweh in that way, the way of the heathen. But that's a confusion of categories, because it confuses gifts for others with gifts for the god of the tree. It also confuses bowing for practical purposes with an act of worship. If it were, Elisha could hardly forgive Naaman for bowing in the temple of a pagan deity when he assisted his aged master. In any event, no one is worshiping God or any god with a Christmas tree. A Christmas tree neither serves nor is used to worship God. The Christmas holiday is ideally meant to honor God by practice of observation, and of memorializing an event associated with an act of His, namely the Incarnation. In that way, it's closer to the way Israel laid rocks down as a memorial at such events as the parting of the Jordan. Worship in the biblical world meant service, not just ritual bowing. While one may worship someone that one honors, worship is far from the only means to ascribe honor. Okay, what's next?
The Bible is filled with warnings about worshiping idols under every green tree.
Yeah, well, worship of idols was done under trees for good reason. In a hot climate like Palestine, not spending your outdoor worship time under a tree was just asking for a case of sunstroke. The tree was not part of the process of worship most of the time, and there are no idols under Christmas trees. In the biblical world, an idol was a sort of phone booth. It was a location where the god you worshipped would come down and commune with you. It wasn't just a carved piece of wood or rock. As far as I know, no one tries to communicate with pagan deities by way of a gift box. And with that, what else do we have? Well, I've had a few other desperate objections raised from the crowd out there, but I think I only need to provide an example to see why they're not worthy of more attention.
Jeremiah referencing Christmas long before Jesus isn't a problem. Obviously, God knows everything and was inspiring Jeremiah to address future practices.
So what you're saying is, even though God had a few decades in the time of the New Testament to issue such a warning, He chose instead to have Jeremiah deliver a prophecy concerning Christmas practices no one would have understood for, not even 600 years, but in fact the 2100 years ahead of him before Christmas trees were invented in 1500s Germany. Is that right? Yeah, that's what I figured. See you next Christmas.